Hey folks, Rob here with another Initial Recce for you. So this one's going to be ASL number 93, the Tavronitis Bridge. Now this is available in for King and Country, the British module, where it deals with German storm elements landing by glider, facing off against some New Zealanders. So it's going to be Elite 468 versus Elite 458. And a really short scenario, 5.5 turns. Surprisingly, I found this a lot of fun to play. Dave and I did this one today. Came down to the last couple of rolls again, and which makes it a really good scenario when that happens, which I think is the trend based on what I've read on Scenario Archive. A lot of people are liking this scenario. There, it has about a 60 to 40 ratio for the Germans over the New Zealanders. I was playing the Germans. But yeah, it's a really well-rounded scenario, I think. And again, it's only 5.5 turns, so well playable within 2 hours. Designed by Steven Swann, so I'm liking the scenarios. And again, this is an updated one, so it should have any errata put into it already. As we said, the premise for this is Malamine Crete. Now, on that day in 20 May 1941, there was actually 3 concurrent objectives going on. And this one's going to deal with tackling the bridge. The other one was taking out the AA guns that were in the area. And the third one was occupying the high ground to the south of the airfield itself. So this one happened just a little bit to the west of where the actual airfield was. And let's get into that. All right, so the VC for this are quite simple. The Germans win a game end if there's no good order British infantry on or between hex rows O and S. So right now on the map, you can see this is board 8. You can see the numbers towards the north, according to the diagram up here. The red lines demark where the British set up within. They have to be somewhere around here, and it has to be a non-road hex. And the victory conditions are basically these hex rows here. There cannot be any good order infantry located in those 6 hexes, or 5 hexes, excuse me. And remember that when it comes to infantry, it also includes single-man counters. So it's not just MMCs, it's actually SMCs as well, of which the British have 2. So they have an 8-1 and 8-0. They've got 5 4-5-8s, and then they have 2 lights, which they have to set up, as I said, within the red area, and it cannot be on a road hex. So basically you're looking at the buildings, possibly some entrenchments here in the open ground or up in the high features as well. So the first one, EC are moderate, which again are not going to play into the scenario. There's not enough time to do any kind of kindling, not that you would anyways. There is a mild breeze from the northwest, as we said, so it comes in this way, which means all your gliders must land facing into the wind. So just bear that in mind. The river itself, this is the river board 8, and the dark green is actually a -1 level valley. So open ground valleys, nice smooth landing. Again, we're going to get into the gliders in a second here. So there's also this 1-lane stone bridge, which runs east to west in hexes Q3 to Q8 as well. All orchards are olive groves. Now the difference between orchard and olive grove is 1, they are never out of season, and 2, they offer a +1 TEM. So this is a +1 for any fire into it, not just through it for the normal hindrance rules. Now the British, for their part, have no light anti-air. It's represented off board, and to reflect that, they're given 2 4-firepower attacks to make on your gliders when they come in. Remember, for light anti-air, there's certain prerequisites. Again, I have an air support tutorial video, which I highly recommend you watch, and there's also one on gliders as well, so you get a good idea on how to use those, should you be unfortunate to land off board like I almost did. So if we look at our IFT chart, we said we have a 4-firepower attack, which means that we use the vehicle line for gliders. So we need a 5 or less to get a result. Now, gliders, when they're airborne, let's bring a glider out. You can see how here it has the 1 beside the star. Normally on the actual live counter itself, you'll see the 1 sitting inside a star, which means it has an armor factor of 1. What that means is that You add 1 to the die, and if it's a 5 or less, then you get a result. Now with gliders, if you also get one greater than 5, again, we're using a 4 firepower column. If Dave rolled a 5 with a +1, we'll give it a 6. That would cause the glider to evade. A 5 or less, and you're talking some kind of damage, either it destroyed outright or it's just wounded. Again, I recommend my glider video tutorial for you guys so you understand exactly how that works. So as we said, the British get 2 4 firepower attacks with a separate die roll for each. So there's 2 chances of knocking their gliders out of the air. A 6 or less final result is not too bad for 2 dice. So Dave was really good with his 2. Well, I should say one of them missed. The other one was on target and definitely caused the glider to evade. It was quite comical the way it happened. And then lastly, we have SSR3, which is the sniper counters. Now, as there are no German forces on board, the sniper does not go down for the British until the gliders land. Again, we'll cover on that briefly. The German sniper gets placed on at the start of the first British player turn. The first player turn in the game is going to be from the Germans and then followed by the British. So the British sniper goes down once the gliders land, and then the German sniper goes down when we start the British turn. All right, so let's look at the attacking forces first. So they're not Fallschirmjäger, they are Elite 468, so this is part of a Sturm Battalion or Storm Battalion. You can see they've each got gliders, so there's 10 squads, 10 gliders, 1 squad per glider, because Germans are limited to 14 portage point gliders, which means you can't carry anything more. And therefore in general gliders, any weapon that can be dismantled must be dismantled before it could be carried by glider. Now, the Germans also get 3 light machine guns, and they have 3 leaders. So they have a really good support weapon and leader base. They have a 9.2, they have an 8.1, and they have an 8.0 for helping with your rallies should you get to that. So this is a really strong force for the Germans. Again, 10 squads, 3 support weapons with 2 dismantled mortars, as well as the 3 leaders. Now, the only thing that sucks about these German mortars is, well, that they suck. You're firing on the 50 millimeter, which is on the 4 column. However, because it's a mortar, you're firing half, so you're actually going to be on the 2 column. So unless the British set up in trees, which there aren't any really in their setup area, you're really not going to get much effectiveness out of it unless you get a critical. If you get a critical, they can be quite effective. And because of the high rate of fire, remember they have a rate of fire of 3, they can, you might have a good chance of getting snake eyes that you need for critical. Now, unfortunately, as well for these mortars, another reason why they suck is they don't offer any kind of smoke capability. Smoke would be really nice. As you can see, the map is quite open. Most of the units are probably going to be landing somewhere in here, and it's basically like a turkey shoot, depending where the British set up. Now let's look at the British. So again, we're talking ANZACs here. These are New Zealanders, really. And so they're represented by the Elite 458s. You have 5 of those. Again, you have 2 LMGs and you have 2 leaders. Now, as we said, you must set up within the red area, and you're really going to have to set up on both sides, because if you're just focused on one side, you're going to be much easier to take out. The Germans not going to have to worry about it. So you're definitely going to have to split up your force. And having only 5 squads is really not the best, even though they are nice Elite 458s. Don't forget, you can also deploy your squads 10%, which means you can get 2 half squads. There we go. So you can always break down one of your squads. And at the start of your rally phase, remember, you can also deploy further if you so wish, just so you can spread out and make the German have to hunt you down. Now, as we said, your gliders are going to be coming in like this if you're a German, and this is going to be a big killing field depending where you are, especially from units in the upper levels here, or even this location here. In the west side, not so much, except for this high feature over here. This is a level 2 hill, so you're going to be 3 levels higher, or 3 levels higher than the valley. Gives you a nice perch if you put a foxhole in this location here. So you can basically pepper the whole landing area. Our Germans, as we said, are going to be coming in like this, and there's really only there's a couple ways to do this. So let's look at what the modifiers are. So we look at gliders here. This is for your landing. So the way it's a two-step process. First of all, you put your glider down in your initial landing hex that you designate. Then you look at the modifiers, in which case we want to have as many minuses as possible because you need to roll a final 1 or less. You must roll a 1 or less on the colored die. So you roll both dice. If you fail to get a 1 or less on the final colored die roll, then you're going to either overshoot or undershoot your landing hex. And then you have to worry about obstacles. So you want to have as many -1s as you can. And for every full level obstacle in that path, there's going to be a +1. So how does that look? So again, we have our 5 as our landing hex. The 5 preceding ones are its approach. And we go -1. We go -1, -2, -3, 4, 5. So we're finally at a -5 to our die roll, which means we could roll a 6 on the black die and we're still going to land. As long as you have a total of 6 hexes without any obstacles, then you'll be fine. When you start to factor in things like, for example, if you want to land in T3, say we want to use this olive groves to obscure their lines of fire to me, as well from the west side, you have this, they could be up on the second level and see over the olive grove, but again, that's a distance. And if you want to land out there outside of their fire areas, you may want to pick something like T3. So then you have to look at 5 hexes behind that. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is a level 1 obstacle right now because we're in the flat terrain. So this will be a +1. This will be a net 0, -1, -2, and a -3. -3 on one die, which means you need to roll a 4 or less on the colored die in order to land at T3. Should you fail that die roll and you overshoot, you could smash into the bridge, which will be affected next in your crash roll, or you could drop short and you end up hitting another obstacle here. So when you pick your initial landing hex, make sure that you, whenever possible, you can secure 5 hexes preceding it. What I did was I actually landed 2 gliders on here. Not to good success. This one here was fine, but this one here, because of the olive grove here, I overshot and I ended up smashing into here, and yeah, it was a mess. And I ended up losing 2 of my gliders on my approach. And then I also had one that smashed into the building here because I deviated so nicely. So when it comes to landing, just remember, you want to pick a hex that's nice and clear with a good 5 hexes preceding it. That's going to be your approach path, just to guarantee that you land on target. Yeah, so like I said, I tried to land 2 up here, trying to get the jump on them, but it didn't really work out. Remember that the British get 2 shots, and they're good to take out gliders, and all you have to do is wound it once. And then with your ground fire in the defensive fire phase, you'll actually have a chance to wound it twice. And a glider that's wounded twice is destroyed along with its contents. So very precarious situation on the approach. So you're basically going to land most of your troops somewhere in here, probably either south of the bridge, maybe north of the bridge. Again, you want to have a flight path that's nice and clear of any obstacles. You also must, on the other hand, land close enough that you can achieve your objectives, because you only have 5.5 movement phases, and your first turn is you being stuck in your glider. Now, you will get in the advance phase away from your glider, but depending where you land, it could be disadvantageous to you. Oh, I failed to mention, too, that the Allied Order of Battle also includes shell holes. So you have 3 of these, which again are good for setting up somewhere like this. It has to be a non-road hex. So something like this in the woods might be nice, although again, the Germans do have mortars. or an open ground hex like back here in R10 or P10. Again, depending where you want to set up. Maybe even back in depth. You set one guy up here concealed, and he just spends the whole game sitting there because he's within the victory condition hexes. That'll be enough to deny the Germans the victory. But again, the British have 3 1-squad foxholes, which you can put. Dave had one down here on the low ground, which again is really it's good move because again your glider's all going to be landing in this area, and 458 even with an LMG sitting right here, that's a 6 firepower attack, and a 6 firepower attack on the IFT. You need a 6 or less on the vehicle line to get a kill. Remember that gliders, again I refer you to my video, when they land, all right, so this is the glider coming in. When it lands, assuming it lands in its initial landing hex, it gets flipped over to the green status. Once it's on the green side, it's treated like an unarmored vehicle, basically like a truck with no armor. So the armor factor only applies when it's in the air. That's when you get the +1 to your die roll. Once it's on the ground, then a 6 firepower attack, you need a 6 or less to get a result, and all you need to do is wound it twice. Now, a 6 or less on the 6, again, you're looking, what's the average? 7 and change. It's quite feasible to get that, especially if you roll well like Dave did. Again, before I started my attack, I was already down 4 gliders and all the contents. So, yeah, just remember that with the Germans, that you want to pick a line of approach that's relatively clear. On the same time, you got to be aware of where the British set up. And British, again, if you want to set a guy here, it doesn't have to have an LMG, but even a 4 firepower attack is still going to be a 5 on the table. A 5 on the vehicle line. So 5 or less, again, it's not too bad, especially if you roll well. All right, so that's basically a distribution of the forces. So again, for the British, we have 5 squad equivalents. Again, you can deploy 1 at the start, and then you can also use your leaders to deploy further if you so wish. You also have 3 foxholes to set up within the red area. Remember, the victory condition hexes are these 5 hexes right here, or I should say these 5 columns. Those are your victory condition hexes. As long as you have a infantry unit, which again, leaders count as infantry units, or even a simple half squad sitting somewhere up here in the second floor concealed, will give you the victory over the Germans. All right, so let's look at the first one, observation and fields of fire. Now, assuming we have a 458, let's put a half squad in here. This is the kind of setup that Dave had. So there's a half squad here, just sitting in a foxhole. I think he had another one in this hut here, again, just beside the victory hex row. And that's enough for now, I think. Remember, because the Germans are coming on board, that you start the game concealed. Now, according to the rules for gliders, the contents of a glider are considered broken for terms of LOS. So if we put our little glider here, these units are here sitting on board. We don't know that the opponent doesn't know what's in it yet. You just know a glider's landed in its initial landing hex, and it survived. So he knows that it's there. When it comes to defensive fire, assuming there was line of sight, this unit could fire on here, and he would not lose concealment because they are considered broken. And if you conduct any kind of fire attack in good order, or sorry, in line of sight of a non-good order unit, you do not lose concealment. So just remember that. So when your glider is sitting right here, you can fire at it and retain your concealment because they're considered broken out of line of sight, for line of sight purposes only. So you're going to have the advantage as a British, as you have a lot of flexibility where you can set up. You're going to have lots of fields of fire. Again, this is a wide open valley, And anything inside here that moves, once it moves, will either be a -1 or a -2. If you can set up in a good spot, here in this olive grove maybe, behind the wall, not in a entrenchment so you can actually see, or up here on the second level, let's say. It gives you a nice wild field view that you can fire at will. You give this guy an LMG, maybe even give him that 8.1 liter, and you're in a really good, strong position for anything that's in the valley here. Now, again, depending on your die rolls, you may only get one shot. You only have a rate of fire of 1, which is not great. However, it is enough considering that they are probably going to be landing in the valley. Again, I landed 2 gliders along this road here, and it did not turn out well. We're going to do this scenario again. I'm probably going to land somewhere in here or back here somewhere. I think I'm going to try and stay out of the setup zone just so I don't get shot whenever possible. It's unfortunate the wind's blowing the way it is, because there's a nice good spot right down here where you're outside the setup area, you're outside long range for them, or even down here. But again, you have to land facing into the wind. So either you're going to be landing in these hexes over here, or somewhere over here, maybe over here. Again, you want to have 5 hexes between the bridge and where you land. So the British are going to have really good lines of fire. Be aware of the olive groves. Remember, they're in season orchards, and they also have a TEM. So if you set up, if you manage to, say, for example, get a unit up on this hill, again, you're going to have a plateau effect. You won't be able to see through this to anything in the valley. That's what happened to Dave. He had a unit up here in T8. For an attacker, the Germans, once you disembark from your glider in the advancing fire phase, you'll have that advancing fire to try and get something going. But again, your fields of fire are really going to be limited. Most of it's either going to be in a building concealed, or it'll be in a trench concealed. Remember, he can fire on you until you disembark. You're considered broken for line of sight purposes. So you're going to be firing back when you land your guys, or when you advance out in the advancing fire phase. You're not going to be concealed. He will be, and then you're suddenly becoming a 2 firepower attack up a hill against a +2 entrenchment in this case. So it's the kind of thing you got to be aware of. You're not going to have a really strong start, which is why I tried to land 2 gliders in this way. And again, it is, if that's what he targets with his 2 free light anti-air attacks, you don't have a lot of leeway with that. So you don't know what he's going to target. And in my case, I ended up losing both of the gliders that were in the upper level, which meant that all these guys landed down in the valley. We actually played this one. We actually had the map backwards, so I'm going to try and correct that in this video here. I basically landed all along this row right here, and then I tried to jump up on the wall. Remember, moving off the valley floor, up a level over a wall, will cause this unit to CX. So yes, you can do it, but because it's difficult terrain, it's cost 4 move to crest the wall. Yeah, so you're going to be coming off the ground, off the valley floor, and you're going to probably be CX'd if you try and take this route. Alternatively, if you land in the middle, you won't be CX, but on the other hand, you're also going to be wide open. Any movement in this area, you're going to get nailed with a down 1, down 2 shot. All right, so cover and concealment. Now, the British, because they're set up in either foxholes or in buildings, maybe in the olive grove. Remember, again, this is a +1 for TEM. You're not going to have any cover as a German, barring your line of sight hindrance for a glider. A glider on the ground, don't just remove it once you dismount. This becomes a level 1 hindrance for any fire through it. Now, it doesn't really help you when he's up here on a second level and you're down here in a glider. It's really not. But should he have these units down here in the valley, and you have a couple gliders stacked, you could squeak out maybe a +1, maybe a +2. It's unlikely, but that's about the only cover you're going to have as an attacker, is whatever the glider provides you until you get off the valley floor. Again, you can try the risky approach. If you survive as anti-air and you survive landing and you survive defensive fire, you'll be in a strong position at the top of the hill, so you can retaliate quickly. All right, so looking at obstacles, again, for the gliders, you have to worry about this bridge affecting your landing hex. You have to worry about all this terrain around it. Remember what we said. You want to have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clear hexes so you can land here and improve your chance of surviving a crash. So that takes the terrain out of the equation, and you only have to worry about whatever kind of defensive fire he throws your way. So your choices for a German attacker are quite limited because of all this terrain around you. Again, you cannot land anywhere in the west. You can try this as I did to varying success, but that's about your only chance. Aside from that, you're going to be landing in the valley, which the only thing you really have to worry about then is the bridge, hitting it, and if you're too close to any one of these obstacles when you come in. For a defender, obstacles you have to be aware of. Again, you got to be aware of the olive groves. They're always in season, and they are +1 TEM. So not only do they block line of fire from shots, again, you got to be a level higher than them. If you forget that, you're going to be blocking your shots, and you're just going to let them come up and close to you when you're not ready for that. All right, looking at key terrain. Now, this is really for the attacker. Again, you must clear off this set of rows. And the key pieces of terrain you have to worry about are something hiding back here or buried up here in the building somewhere. Now, if the British player is really spread out with a lot of half squads and everybody's in their own hex, that is a lot of terrain for you to try and cover. So the key terrain for the attacker, again, is basically going to be this area here in the middle. You don't have to worry about anything. And unless you play with the balance, in which case the British can set up anywhere, then you only have to worry about this small little area, which is quite nice. For a defender, it would be really nice if they did not have the setting up on a non-road hex. If you could, I'd put a trench there, put a foxhole here, I should say, and you just control the bridge, and they have to dig you out of there. So it's really hard to do that, but you can't do that. So for you, your key terrain probably is going to be hiding, skulking back here. And then in your turn 5, you just assault move in, keep your concealment. This guy here, he can assault move in there. And remember, good order British infantry. So as long as you have a concealed leader or a half squad somewhere inside these 5 hexes, you're golden. Now, be wary of close combat, because if you're in close combat, you're not in good order. So even if you manage to assault move in there turn 5, and for whatever reason the German makes it up into here, he just has to engage you in melee, and provided you don't keep your, or I guess you could keep your concealment and avoid fighting, and then you could try withdrawal, but you're taking your chances to do that. And he still has a turn left to come and clean you off, depending on when you do it. So you want to avoid close combat whenever possible. You really want to stay spread out in this area. All right, finally for the attacker, we have avenues of approach. Now, again, I'll belabor the point one more time. You want to have 5 clean hexes with no obstacles, so you can guarantee you stick the landing. Then you don't even have to worry about them shooting. Once you're in the riverbed, assuming that's where you land, either on this side or maybe over here somewhere, I've kind of favored this approach. I think I'm going to try this one next time, just because depending, again, where the British set up, This is going to be outside a lot of the line of fire, potentially, again, depending where it is. You could maybe even make the guess and land over here somewhere. Then you're way out of the line of fire, and then you can come in with your two-pronged attack and just clean house. And you have a better chance of making it up to the high ground, getting out of the valley floor, because this will be a death trap for you if you stay here for too long. One thing I forgot to cover with the obstacles is this bridge. Remember, direct fire tracing in from a non-road hex side always gets a +1. So it's basically like a wall, if you will. So if you are high enough level, you could negate it, but you're always going to be able to get some kind of wall advantage on top of this bridge. And that's a +1 TM. So that'll negate moving and open, which will cancel out your -1 for non-assault. So as a German, if you want to run down, say you land on this side here, you clean out this area, then you have to charge across the bridge to clean out this area. Just know that you're probably going to get a good +1 from terrain effect, which will be a net 0 on any attacks against you. And again, because these are in season, he'll have to be up on the second level in one of these two hexes in order to see you, to shoot at you. So in the scenario that we played, again, we had the board inverted. That was my bad. We actually went around the other way. I landed, basically came in this way, and I filled up these rows with my gliders, and then I had two that landed here. Again, one landed into the olive grove, and then he blasted it with his squad, killed that one. The other one, I can't remember what happened to it, but it basically came down to this squad, or I should say this half squad right here. He moved to 010, stayed concealed, and then I had guys here on the bridge, and I ran here, CX'd into the woods. He defensive first fired, I pinned, and then I brought in my last squad to here. He defensive, well, final protective fire, I suppose, rolled really well, and he got a K1 result on me here, which I ended up pinning. So that was the last turn on my turn 6. I had a pinned half squad and a pinned squad sitting here in the trees, and he was just laughing at me the whole way. Yeah, for that particular game, it was kind of bad rolls on my part. I rolled really high at the beginning. I only rolled 2 snakes in the whole game, which is, I guess, okay. It's better. But I had one glider actually land right on top of the building here. Luckily, I stuck the landing and he landed right here at the base, and he survived, at least for another turn before Dave shot him up. And there we have Initial Recce for ASL093 Tavronitis Bridge. Never know how to pronounce it properly. Good little scenario. Again, it's only 5.5 turns, well playable within 2 hours, sub 2 hours. We had to look up a couple rules, which took some time, but yeah, a 2-hour nice little scenario, small units. It seems overwhelming because you have a 2-to-1 advantage as the Germans. However, because they're coming in with gliders, depending on your opponent's rolls, they could get shot out of the air. Once they land, one thing that I did is I completely underestimated how effective a 4 firepower attack can be on an unarmed vehicle. Again, if you look at the IFT, a 4 firepower attack, you need a 5 or less to damage it. All you need to do is wound it twice, and then it's gone. So, yeah, it's a good little scenario. I like it. Let me know what you think. We're going to play this one again, and I'll post the video on that when we actually do it. This time we'll have the board around the right way, and we'll see if that changes anything. But yeah, if you've played this scenario, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you guys next video. Bye-bye.